All right, y'all, today we are going to look at comparing dot plots. So we've already been talking about box plots, and now we're going to move on to our next kind of graph. We've already seen these dot plots in a previous lesson when we talked about symmetrical or asymmetrical and skewed left and skewed right, but now we're going to do a little bit more with these dot plots. So let's go ahead and begin. So remember, mode is something that happens the most often. Okay, so mode is the number that appears the most often. So mode is the number that happens the most. Appears most often, however you want to say that. So what we've done with this data is we've actually organized, instead of making a list of numbers, we've created it with a number line, and we put a dot above the number each time it would have appeared in the list. Well, in case you forgot, the peak in a dot plot, the peak is always the mode. So in a dot plot, the peak is always the mode. And that makes sense because if you were to list this 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, and so on and so forth, we could see that the 1 is what's happening the most. So the mode in this example is equal to 1. Okay? And in case you forgot from 6th grade math, there could be one mode, more than one mode if it's a tie, or no mode at all. So if there's no number that repeats more often than anything else, then it's going to be no mode. So something to think about. All right, let's talk about range. Range is when we took our greatest number, or our maximum, and we subtracted it with our lowest number, or our minimum. Okay? So it's based on what you see. So because there's a dot above this 9, and there's at least one dot above this 0, our maximum is 9, and our minimum is 0. Okay? Something to think about, because if there was the number 10 right here on the number line, but nothing above it, 10 would not have actually been in my data. So it has to have the dot above it to be represented in my original number list. So 9 minus 0, of course, we know is 9. So the range for this graph is 9. And remember, another synonym, another way of saying range is spread. So this is data is spread out over 9 numbers. Now with the median, we've talked about median as being the true middle number. So when we're looking at median, instead of having this big long list of numbers, we can still use this and cross off the lowest and then the highest and then the lowest and then the highest, back and forth to find the median. Remember, if there were 2 middle numbers, then we're going to find the average of those 2. So I cross off this 0 and this 9. That's my lowest and my highest. Now this 0 and this 8 are my new low and my high, and I go back and forth. Now there's nothing to cross off on 6, so I'm going to go to 5. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, just making sure I have it even. Then I cross off a 1, a 4, a 1, a 4, a 1, a 3, a 1, a 2, a 1, and a 2. So I have 2 true middle numbers. So let's look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I crossed off 9 numbers on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There we go. Forgot to count those 2 2s. So if you think there's a 1 and a 2 as the middle numbers, so what's in the middle of 1 and 2 is going to be my median. Okay? So we could say 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. Or you can just kind of think about your mental math and know that 1 and 5/10 is in the middle. So I can understand mental math on that one, but if you're not sure, find the average of the 2. 1.5 is my true middle number. Even though we see 2 middle numbers, remember there's always something right in the middle of them. All right, now let's look at these, and we're going to compare these categories. So we need to know those vocabulary of those words and how to use our dot plots to find those things in order to answer these questions. So in this dot plot, we have represented the number of at least 3 siblings. In this dot plot, we have those that have at least 2 siblings, and then 1 to 3 siblings, and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and look and see what this represents. Okay? So this graph actually is the same graph each time, but these are the questions that we're looking for to answer. Okay? So how many have at least 3 siblings? Well, at least 3 siblings means 3 or more siblings. So again, this is the same graph each time, so let's just kind of zoom in. So if you have at least 3 siblings, you have 3 or more. So we only count the dots that's represented because that would have been how many people in my list had that. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Okay, and the reason why this is 4 or more people, 2 people had 3 siblings, 1 person had 4 siblings, 1 person had 6 siblings. Okay, let's keep going. This one, using the same graph, and we just reprinted it for you, says less than 2 siblings. So less than 2 does not include 2. It has to be a number under 2. So that's this many right here. So 1, 2, 3 people had 1 sibling, and 1 person surveyed had 0. Okay, so less than 2 means no more than 2, and also not equal to 2. So this is going to be 4 people as well. A different 4 people represented than this one, but it's still 4 people. Okay? Let's look at another one, and we have a couple more for you. So this one says 1 to 3 siblings. So that's a range between 1 to 3 siblings. So 3 people had 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 people had 2 siblings, and 2 people had 3 siblings. So 1 to 3 siblings represents this many people right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that answer would be 9 people. Another thing that I want to note about dot plots, unless otherwise noted, each dot above that number is going to represent 1 person. Sometimes they might have a key where they say the dot or the X equals 5 people. So that if that were the case, that would have been 5, 10, 15 people for that one, 5, 10, 15, another 20 for that one. But that's just something to be mindful of. Okay? All right, hopefully you're getting the hang of this. Let's try a couple more. So now we're going to do what we've done with our box plots, but now with dot plots. So we're going to compare the double dot plots. We have 2 different graphs, and they're representing the hours per month spent exercising. So we're talking about basketball players versus softball players in this example. So let's see. It says, what set of data is symmetrical? So remember, if it's symmetrical in a dot plot, we have to start or look at the peak. And remember, the peak is the mode. It's the number that happens the most. So if we look right here, this is your peak right here. And then we're going to draw the tails down like this. Okay? So does this left-hand side look symmetrical to the right? Nope, that looks skewed right because our data is more spread out to the right. We start right here at the peak. And we go down like this. Does your left-hand side look similar to the right? Yep, that looks pretty similar, so we are going to say what set of data? The softball players. Okay, which one has the greater range? Well, remember, when we find range, we're going to subtract our highest and our lowest number. So our highest number, say range, so our highest number and our lowest number. Okay? And the numbers right here are down here for you. So right here, that's 31. For that, that's 20. Okay? So 31 minus 20 is 11. Then for our range for the softball players, well, our highest number is 26, and our lowest number is 22. So that's 4. Okay? Now remember, just because this graph goes to 34, neither one of them had a dot of that, so that's why we're not using 34. Okay, both of these graphs started at 19, but we don't have a dot above it, so that's why we're not using those as our maximum and minimum. So which one has the greater range, covers more numbers? Well, 11 is greater than 4, so we're going to say basketball players. Okay, because their range is 11 and their range is only 4. All right, this one says which one has the greater median? Well, remember the median is in the middle. Okay. Now we'll sit here and cross off back and forth, and figure out the median. So lowest, highest, lowest, highest, lowest, highest, lowest, highest, lowest, highest, and then lowest, highest. So that one has tie. So this is my 2. So this number right here was 20, 21, 22, 23, 45, 26. Making sure. So 23 and 26, we're going to add those up and then divide by 2. And just for time purposes, we're going to go ahead and look at this. That's 9, so that's 49. So 49 divided by 2. We'll just use the calculator real quick to make sure we have enough time for everything else. So add my 2 middle numbers and divide by 2. Oops, 49 divided by 2, not plus 2. So their median for the basketball players is 24 and 5/10. All right, let's look at the softball players. Lowest, highest, lowest, highest, lowest, highest, lowest, highest. Then we have all these 24s. So their median for the softball players is 24. So who has the greater? Well, that would be your basketball players right here. And which has the player who exercised the least? So without saying the least, that's another way of saying your minimum. So this one practiced for 20, this one's 22, so the least would be our basketball players. Because that would be at 20 hours. Okay? Which one who exercised the most? Well, most is another way of saying maximum. So your maximum amount for basketball was 31, whereas your maximum for softball was only 26. So we got basketball players again to this question. Okay. And then the last one, which has the greatest variety of the hours spent exercising? So if you stop and think about it, it's what's more spread out. And that's going to be your basketball players again. If it's a greater variety, it goes from 20 to 31 with some numbers in between. You can see with the softball players, it's only between 22 and 26. So when it's kind of talking about the greatest variety, think about that as being your range. Okay, so who has the bigger range? It's going to be your basketball players. Okay, that's how we're going to be looking at some of these questions. So there's a lot of things of what we need to remember how to do step by step. And so, of course, you need to rewatch this video. Go ahead and do that. Otherwise, good luck on your assignment and reach out to your teacher as you need help.